Geek Therapy Radio.
Welcome to the Geek Therapy Radio podcast. I'm your mental curator, Johnny Hamburger. Holy crap. If any of you have a Twitter, which I would imagine 99.9% of you listening probably do, the cesspool that Twitter is, blah, blah, blah. It's a good way for me to stay in contact with show listeners and other creators and such. But holy moly, at least 15 high-profile accounts were hacked today. So Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Joe Biden, Jeff Bezos, all of those accounts were hijacked today at pretty much the same time. We're going to talk about it for a little bit. In a Bitcoin scam. Basically what the tweet said, all of them said something along the lines of, I've been asked to give back, so I'm giving back. If you send $1,000 to this account, I will give you back $2,000. And this was on Joe Biden's, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Elon Musk's, and several other very high-profile Twitter accounts. Crazy. Here's what's crazy. It's not unheard of to have one or two high-profile accounts hacked, and then the owner of the account immediately deletes those tweets, or Twitter's on it and they have a hold of it. And you really have to catch it at the right time to see the tweets. If you didn't see the tweets as they happened, you might not see it again. Maybe in screenshots. Someone would save a screenshot or something like that. Either way, the problem is handled swiftly. This was on over a dozen high-profile accounts. And as soon as the Twitter team or whoever got on it to shut down the frauders, the hackers, or whatever you want to call it, they came right back with a brand new email account. And there were several attempts. Every time they shut down one hacker, let's say it was on the Elon Musk account, you'd shut off the Elon Musk account, and then the hacker would come back with a different email account quickly, like instantly. So as soon as you took care of the hacker, like it popped up again. It was hacked immediately again. And remember, this is across over a dozen high-profile Twitter accounts from billionaires. And it took a good while. I'm not even sure, as of right now recording, if they've got a complete handle on it. Yeah, more updates will come. I'm recording this as of 6:30-ish on July 15th, 2020. I'm being very specific about it. But this is kind of an ongoing story, and it's just insane that it's taking so much effort to undo the damage done by these hackers. And what's even more fascinating, part of me is like, it's terrible, it's horrible, people just, being fraudulent in these terrible people. But at the same time, I'm wondering, like, who's freaking behind it? Who has the know-how? You would think that an account like Bill friggin' Gates and Elon friggin' Musk and Jeff, King of Amazon Bezos, would have the tightest cybersecurity surrounding their social media accounts, let alone their financial accounts and all that kind of stuff. You would think that those people, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, would have impenetrable barriers surrounding their social media. And the thing is, why this is so crazy, of course they do. Of course they did. Whoever did this is extremely talented, and I don't mean that in a they did a good thing way. They didn't do a good thing. What they're doing is they're scamming people out of money. You think this is, if for 1 second you think this is any sort of transfer of wealth or a freedom fighter or anything like that, you are sadly mistaken. The people being scammed are working class people. It is just lower middle class people, if not low income people, that would fall for this. They're hurting those struggling financially, mostly. The type of person that would fall for this, to send me $1,000, I'll send you $2,000 back, that person is probably struggling financially. So this hacker isn't doing anything virtuous, isn't some sort of Robin Hood sticking it to the rich. It had nothing to do with the rich's bank accounts at all. This didn't touch, as far as I know in this developing story, it didn't touch Bill Gates' actual bank account. It didn't touch Elon Musk's bank accounts or anything like that. It was purely a transfer of funds into the hacker's bank account or bank accounts. It's nothing good. There's no freedom fighting going on here. It's purely somebody up to no good and evil to take advantage of us, take advantage of the middle class, lower middle class, low-income families, low-income individuals who would fall prey to such an attack. There's nothing good going on here, but darned if I'm not impressed by it. I would love to hear from some of my listeners who are more familiar with programming and hacking to let me know what they think about this. Such an amazing story here. Wow, just think about it. Musk, Bezos, Gates. That's crazy. I'm disgusted. Here's it. I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted as much as I am impressed. That's a good way to kind of wrap up my feelings about this. That's nuts. I was scrolling through my Twitter and I saw the first tweet from Elon Musk saying, "Hey, send me $1,000. I'll send you back $2,000." I was like, for the first split second, I was thinking, well, Musk is crazy, in a good or bad, I think in a mostly good way. He's an eccentric billionaire. Why wouldn't he be doing this? And then I thought about it for like 2 more seconds. Like, there's no freaking way. This has all the telltale signs of a scam. But the fact is, I was confused for a split second because these were official accounts. Official. It was Elon Musk's account saying this. It was Bill Gates' account saying this, and I followed both of them. What? I didn't see Bill Gates at the same time that I saw Elon Musk. But the way that these hackers operated, as soon as they were shut down and rooted out, they hijacked the account immediately again. They kept posting repeatedly on these accounts. As soon as they were figured out and handled, they had another post. They rehacked it. Nuts. I would love to talk to somebody at Twitter and figure out, when this is all said and done, what actually happened. They're not going to tell us how specifically they got in to do this, but this is a fascinating story. An absolutely fascinating story. Okay, so I'm going to move on a little bit here to update you on developments with my battery issues. So as of, was it yesterday, did I wrap up talking about, maybe it was the podcast before. So I'm souping up my electric lawnmower. I got those lithium iron phosphate batteries, and I was trying to think about a circuit, and I put a call out to any listeners out there who are electricians or experts, or at least, intelligent tinkerers with electricity and with circuits, to let me know what they think I should do. Well, I kind of figured it out before anybody could message me. Not that I was expecting anyone guaranteed would message me, but I was able to figure out, and I'll tell you what I did. Opened up my case, and where I left it the other day was, I told you I'm either going to have to rewire the BMS, the battery management system, somehow, or come up with some sort of soft starter circuit for the high induction load of the electric motor. What I wound up doing is I took the lid off the battery, like I just said, and all I did was cut the negative wire from the top of the BMS circuit board, and then I just attached it to the actual negative of the battery itself. So the negative wire basically bypasses the BMS and this attaches right to the negative side of the battery pack itself, directly to the battery. And what this does is it, as far as I know, and still, someone, you can email me, geektherapy@iheartmedia.com, or visit the website, the contact form right there on the front page, geektherapyradio.com. All this does is bypasses the discharge side of the BMS, meaning that it will let me, there's no limit on the amount of discharge in terms of voltage or current that I will be allowed to get from the lithium iron phosphate battery pack. But the charging side of the BMS is unaffected. So when I charge the battery, the BMS is going to keep it from overvolting and damaging the batteries through overvolting. But it will let me discharge way past the previous limit. The previous limit was, I think, 10 volts. If I so chose to, or I wasn't paying attention, that means I could discharge the battery pack down below 10 volts to very unsafe levels that could actually damage the battery pack. So all this battery hack means is that I have to pay close attention to how much I'm discharging the battery. Charging the battery will be fine, it'll protect itself. But discharging, I can certainly damage the battery through discharging, so I have to pay special attention. So my workaround for this, to pay attention, remember this is a battery, these are batteries that go on my lawnmower. So it's two 12-volt lithium iron phosphate batteries wired in series to power the 24-volt lawnmower. I just ordered on Amazon, I don't know, a couple bucks, $3. What were these things? $5 or $6? It's just a little voltmeter. It's just a little voltage display. And I'm going to wire it into the battery. I'm going to wire it to the lawnmower terminals themselves. And here's why. I'm not going to wire it to the battery itself because they'll just stay on all the time. I don't feel like putting a switch on it. I'm just going to kind of create a little space in the battery pack, the enclosure that the two batteries go in, and just have it would just have an LED display on that of the voltage. I don't want to do that. I'm going to fix the voltage display to the lawnmower itself, to the two prongs, the wiring going to the two prongs that accepts the battery, so that the voltmeter will only turn on when the battery is connected to complete the circuit. So this will tell me when I mow the lawn that this is now a 24-volt effective working voltage, that when it's fully charged up, I think it's something like 27.4 volts or whatever in the current system I'm using. The point is, I don't want to overdraw either battery to below 10 volts. So I'm going to say that 11 volts is where I'm going to start wrapping it up with the lawn. Let's say I'm mowing the lawn and I have only 2 strips left and I'm showing 11 volts. I'll finish those 2 strips and then I'm going to go to recharge it because I definitely don't want to go below those 10 volts. But since it's in series, you can double that. And what I'm looking for is a magic number of, let's just... I'll say 22 volts. If I go from 27 volts down to 22 volts, I know that both 12-volt batteries are at that magic 11-volt number. 11 plus 11 is 22. So when I see 22 on the display, I'll know the battery is actually low and to start wrapping it up and recharging. So that's the plan going forward, and I was super stoked about that last night. I rewired the BMS. Like I said, I just unhooked the negative wire from the BMS to the actual negative of the battery itself on both of these batteries, and now I have no limit on the discharge, and I have no limit on the discharge current as well. I can pull as many amps as the batteries can physically allow without exploding, which isn't that much in this application at all. I'm not starting a car engine. So it should be fine there. I tested it last night. The lawnmower absolutely sings. Oh, it sounds so awesome. It is so powerful and it's so steady, and it's such an oomph to it now. With the lead acid batteries, the blade would spin up like kind of slowly like that. With the LiFePO batteries, it's boing, like it's not at a super higher RPM. It's not operating at any higher voltage, but it is operating at a very much more stable voltage. It is definitely operating at a good, constant, solid 26 volts or so, 2 volts over the rate. You can be a few volts over on either side of a 24-volt effective system. It's not going to hurt anything. So it's at that nice stable, let's say 26 volts, 2 volts over the working voltage, and that motor is just singing along happy. I guarantee you that motor, if I pulled it out, the electric motor, if I pulled it out, it would say it was probably rated to 30 volts or so. I would imagine that if you looked at the spec sheet for this 24-volt DC motor, it would be rated to, it would probably be rated between 18 and 30 volts, like working range probably. So I'm going to be fine there. Either way, I'll let you know if I'm not fine. I will tell you on the podcast whether my supercharged lawnmower battery tinker experiment worked. I was going to say I don't see a reason why it wouldn't, but time makes fools of us all. So we will see about that. I'll keep you posted. I will mow the lawn a few times and let you know the status of that lithium iron phosphate battery pack in my lawnmower. I really want to do a short little YouTube video on it because the lawnmower I have, it's the Works 24 volt. What is it? WG775, I believe, is the model. If you go on eBay, on Amazon or whatever, first of all, it's discontinued, but you can still read product reviews, and the product reviews are iffy. Half the people are saying, this is the worst lawnmower I've ever owned. It died the first time I used it, and then the second, like, it worked fine until the battery gave out. Now I can't even get battery, whatever. The lawnmower is weak. The lawnmower didn't work but once. The lawnmower doesn't take a charge anymore. Blah, 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 blah. You'll see mixed reviews, but to me, that just says this lawnmower is up for so many tinkers. I'm going to add the voltage display. I'm thinking about I am definitely adding a 12 to 24 volt car receptacle to it so that I could plug in, maybe my phone, put a phone holder on it and have the phone there to pump the Bluetooth through my headphones, be able to charge the headphones maybe. Some sort of, I'm thinking about fun things to do. Maybe a fan. Ooh, that's a good idea. Ooh, put that the 12 to 24 volts car socket on there, vehicle socket on there, and then get one of those 12 volt trucker fans that you just clamp onto things and just have that fan running off that blowing on me while I'm mowing the lawn. Oh my gosh. I've got extra capacity now. I've got 6 extra amp hours of capacity versus stock. I am on to something there. Pimp my lawnmower. Pimp my electric lawnmower. I'm super excited about that. So I got the lawnmower working exactly how I intended. And I told my wife, babe, while I'm on a hot streak, I'm going to go out to Rowdy and see if I can tinker with the brake light switch before my new brake light switch gets here. My new brake light switch should get here on Friday. I'll let you know how that goes. If hopefully, please crossing my fingers that it's just the brake light switch. We'll see. But I told my wife, I'm on this hot streak. I got the lawnmower going. I was thinking about that for a couple days. Got the lawnmower going perfectly. I'm going to run out to the car while I have this magic touch and see if I can get the car started again. But as soon as I even thought that, as soon as those words came out of my mouth, my wife said something that I had been thinking, but I hadn't really been paying much attention to. I was thinking, it feels a little warm in here. This is we keep our house at 79 degrees. I'm sorry. We're just, there's people out there that think that's crazy warm. No. I think it's crazy to keep your house at 62 degrees. And for those of you around the world in other countries who have no idea what we're talking about or think that's strange, one of the things, not to get too sidetracked here, that one of the things visitors from other countries notice about the United States, I've heard this said more than once, is that everything is air conditioned. And that is 100% true, and it depends really on where you go in the country and what time of year it is. But that being said, I know for a fact in the Netherlands and in Germany, public schools, for instance, it's not uncommon to have a public school in German that has no air conditioning. Because especially depending on the region of the country, you don't need air conditioning. There's places you visit in Europe that don't have air conditioning all year round, that only have heaters in there, only have oil heaters or radiators. In the United States, there's air conditioning everywhere, even for the most part. Even if you're up in northern Maine and it's a cool climate year round, there's still going to be air conditioners in places. You'll find more air conditioners more often than not here in the United States, and that is one of the things that sticks out to visitors who visit the United States, is air conditioning is everywhere. So anyways, back to my story. It was getting a little warm in our house, and I went to check the thermostat, and it was set to 79, but the thermostat said 83. It's like, okay, there's definitely a problem here. And my heart sank a little bit. My wife is pregnant. The last thing in the world I want is to have her sleep through a warm night. And the last thing I wanted also was to call an AC repairman. And also, I didn't want to sleep through a warm night. I've gotten used to sleeping through warm nights. I have a feeling that I would have been able to adjust just fine. It'd be uncomfortable, but hey, you roll with it. But before I could go check the car, put my magic touch to the car and get the car started, I was diverted to fixing this air conditioning issue. And the first thing I checked, I suspected, and probably a lot of you listening who are familiar with air conditioning systems are already way ahead of me here. I checked the water pan. And the water pan was quite full, and it was tripping the sensor on the side of the water pan. If the water pan gets too full, it trips the sensor, which shuts off the AC. Because the last thing you want in the world, if you own a home, is water in places where water shouldn't be. So the air conditioning system was protecting itself. It tripped the water sensor, shut the AC unit off. But what that told me is that there's a clog in the drainage pipe that goes from the water pan outside the house. Sure enough, there was a clog in that pipe, and I jammed the snake down in there. But there's two sharp right angles in this pipe. For some unknown, ungodly reason, the plumbers put right angles in here. It baffles my mind why they did this. But there's right angles that the snake will not go around. So crap. But just me jamming and poking on the snake helped loosen up at least enough whatever was blocking the flow of water. I went out to the side of the house to see the spout where the water comes out, and there was a steady flow of water. So I gave it a few minutes for the water to drain down to a level that's below the sensor. Turn on the AC. Glory, glory, hallelujah. We had cold air coming out of the AC. We didn't have to sleep in a hot house. For those of you who don't know, Geek Therapy Radio Podcast is based in Houston, Texas. It's South Texas. For the past week, we've had at least 3 days in a row of 100 degrees Fahrenheit actual temperature and a heat index of over 110 degrees. That is with the humidity. It's freaking horrible. What's 100 degrees Fahrenheit into Celsius for my international listeners? I thought it would be 37. It's 37.778 degrees. So almost 38 degrees. Well, actually, yes, it's been 101 degrees, 102 degrees around Houston over the past week. So yeah, 38 degrees Celsius. That's how hot it's been around here. And at night, it barely dips into the upper 80s. Like it barely gets out of 90 degrees Fahrenheit around here when it's that hot. So the idea of sleeping in a house that would likely get up to, with no AC, I'm saying our house would probably get to, at night, probably upper 80s. Probably upper 80s, probably maybe 85. Either way, uncomfortable for us soft, doughy Americans. I know a lot of people listening around the world think 85 degrees. I sleep 85 degrees Celsius. Yeah, 85 degrees Celsius. If you're 85 degrees Celsius, you would be absolutely dead. What's 85 degrees Fahrenheit? There's those of you around the world thinking, I sleep when it's 29 degrees Celsius outside every single night. Put up the mosquito nets. I sleep like a baby. I get it. I've done that too. After hurricanes, and we've had no power for a couple weeks in Houston, I have slept in houses with no AC, and it's almost 90 degrees inside the house overnight. I've done it. I got used to it. You'll be surprised what the human body can get used to. I got used to it probably 3 days after having done that for 3 nights. I got used to it. And without getting further sidetracked, which when every time I say that, you know that I definitely am going to get sidetracked on the geek thought. What worked for me to sleep in a hot environment was to, I'll give you some TMI, strip down to as minimal clothing as humanly possible, which means if I'm alone, I'll just say I have extra surface area. But strip down to as minimal clothing as possible. And I start to go to sleep on the floor. I don't start sleep in bed. I start just down on the carpet or maybe even on the tile with a pillow underneath my head, just kind of the coolest part of the floor next to the bed. And I lay there. And the trick is, for me, that I found works, is eventually your body is just going to get exhausted. Eventually you're just going to fall asleep. Your body will be tired eventually. You won't realize that you've fallen asleep. But the way I speed this process up is I lay on the floor as still as humanly possible. I just lay still. I keep my arms to the side or whatever, and I just lay still and just be calm. And just the whole name of the game is just to stop sweating. So I lay there as still as possible. And eventually I find that I fall asleep when I lay there being as still as possible. And when I fall asleep, the first time I wake up out of that sleep, I immediately roll onto the bed. I get into the bed immediately when I'm in that state of being exhausted and tired. So I'll wake up from sleeping on the floor and get into the bed. And then once I'm in the bed, I sleep all through the night. I sleep all through the night until the sun comes up and it really starts sweltering again. But I can get a good solid 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep when it's hot. Through the ways that I've learned to do. And it's just one of the things that I tell myself when I'm laying there sweating, trying to be still and fall asleep when it's 85 degrees Fahrenheit, 29 degrees Celsius in my room is, most other people around the world already do this. I'd feel soft and weak if I couldn't sleep through at least one night doing what most people in the rest of the world do. Like, I'm not that special. I'm just a human being. Everybody else does this around the world. I can do it. There's nothing wrong with me. I can do it like everybody else, and that helps me. That's how I sleep through the night. What the heck was I talking about? Ooh, I know what I'll do. I almost completely forgot about this. Holy crap. Okay, so first I'll let you in on some news. I'm working on this right now. Neil and I have been talking. I'm having Retro Man Cave on the show. Hopefully this week's broadcast, the main radio show, which of course I podcast as well, is going to feature Retro Man Cave. I've been super excited about this. We've been talking back and forth for months trying to get on the same schedule to do this, and so we're still sussing out the details. We are scheduled to record on Friday. Neil is a very, very busy gentleman over there on the other side of the pond, and it's tough to get the schedules to line up, but we're super excited to do this interview together. It's going to be really fun. He's got a Kickstarter to promote. Some of you probably already know about that. It's preserving video games and video game history through, what is it, tea time books? Tea time books. It's really, 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 really cool. So that's a little bit of news there. So you should stay tuned for my interview with Neil from the Retro Man Cave coming up later this week. But what I wanted to get to right now that I almost forgot is that Clint from Lazy Game Reviews sent me some audio the other day. It's a little late. I said I was putting together a show for this weekend, which was last week. So send me some audio about their audio memories. If they had any favorite music devices that they use, sound modules that they use, multi-track recorders that they use. And I had Colin from This Does Not Compute on the show that you all heard. But Clint also weighed in on his favorite musical tinkers with some sound samples. So what I'm going to do now is play that for you on the way out. Oh my gosh. So cool.
Greetings, Clint from LGR here, and on the topic of favorite musical gear and musical things I like to tinker and sort of get inspired by, I'm constantly going back to the Korg Minilog XD. It was my first analog synthesizer, and honestly, I'm just so glad that I chose that one instead of some of the other ones that I've messed with in the past, some of the Moogs and whatnot, because as enjoyably over the top as it's one of those things where there's something about having just the right amount of customization, but also presets that really drew me to the Minilog. Because, it was a brand new thing to me. I'd messed with a lot of software synthesizers and such, but I'd never really had my hands on a hardware analog synth. So I didn't even know where to start. And the fact that it came with all of these modes and patches and kind of a mixture of digital and analog really attracted me to the Minilog XD. And of course, the fact that it is an analog synth underneath and you can go nuts with it, just coming up with all kinds of crazy sounds and escapes, brain waves, and weird grooves and things that I have never experienced before. And now that I have, I kind of can't get enough of them. I just keep collecting these different synths now, analog and otherwise, but that's where it really started for me. Oh, and also the fact that it has these downloadable patches that you can download from other people. You can drop them in there and kind of get what is effectively an extra oscillator or another little frequency modulated thing in the background, and it can create these beats or things that mimic beats and other sounds that are maybe a little, you wouldn't really know how to get them just on my own anyway. I wouldn't know how to make them happen, but you can download those and then tweak those even further and add them as a third sort of layer on top of the two oscillators that it already has. And it's because of that approachability and a mixture of presets and just free-for-all, do whatever you want, that gets my brain going in a way that no other equipment I have does, at least in terms of making music and tinkering around with sounds.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Clint. That was so cool. That makes me want to go home now. I'm recording this at the station and just fiddle around with my software synths. I don't think I actually have a synthesizer anymore, like a dedicated synth module anymore. It's all done through software plugins and Pro Tools and Cakewalk, Sonar and whatnot. But I often find myself when I'm working on a song, working on a project just from scratch, I'm sure a lot of you music creators know this. you get sidetracked for hours, literally hours, creating synth sounds. Like you'll start with a template, or maybe you won't start with a template, but you just continuously tweak knobs, and at a certain point you just have to say, stop. Okay, this is what it is. This is what I'm pressing to tape. This is what I'm using in the final draft. This is going down on the master. I got to stop fiddling with my synth settings and just use this. But we get sidetracked for hours, and sometimes that's all we do. Sometimes that's all we're not even making a song. We'll tinker with the synth to get the correct sound to use later. And we'll save it as our own template, and then we might use it in a song later. But so many hours spent messing with synthesizers. Anyways, thank you, Clint, for that. Awesome. Thank you for listening to Geek Therapy Radio Podcast. Please remember that you are worthy of love, both giving and receiving love, and you are worthy of your own self-confidence. So embrace your geek thing. Embrace your geek thing. Embrace your geek thing. And know you're worthy of love. And I'll talk to you next time. Take care.
Thank you.